What's up, YouTube? It's Juice Beats, and I'm back with another crit race video analysis. And this is the Music City Crit Series race in Nashville, Tennessee. And this was the last race day in the series. I'm considered a Cat 5 racer, and I'm racing in the 4-5 race again. Last race I did here, I finished first as a Cat 5 and 7th overall in the 4-5 race. The course is set up a bit differently this time. The last race featured a couple of 180-degree turns. This one is more of a pill shape with a couple of chicane turns. Race stats for this: 326 watt average, 26 miles an hour, and this was about 8 miles or 14 laps and a 20-minute race. Here we go. Right out the gate, headed into one of the turns and going around the big loop on the course. And already you'll see a few guys go off the front here. Really, everybody is just kind of settling in at this point. Here we go with some attacks. Wasn't too big of an attack. It looked like, he went off the front a little bit early, but he was brought back pretty quickly. There were definitely a lot more attacks in this race than there was in the last one. And I think that was due to having a few more teams in this race. But that was the first lap, so nothing to get alarmed about so far. Everything kind of came back together pretty quickly, and I'm still sitting fourth wheel at this point. I think for me in this race, I did a very good job of staying close to the front as best I could, and also, staying on the wheels a bit more and trying not to be out in the wind as much. So here I am, just sitting in, getting comfortable. Finding a wheel to get behind at this point. So when I first arrived in Nashville, I was getting ready to do kind of my pre-race miles. I was just kind of riding around on some of the streets that are around this track, and it was 100 degrees outside. Tons of humidity, so it was super hot, and I was a little bit worried because when it's super hot like that, your heart rate tends to rise a lot more. Luckily, right before our race, the sun kind of went down a little bit, and I think we got a little bit of a cloud cover, so the temp didn't really come into effect as much in this race. So I'm still sitting in, trying to find a good wheel to get behind here and just stay in the peloton as best I can. I did feel like there were a few laps where people were just kind of slowing down and just kind of resting a little bit here. Here's another one of those small attacks. People ramping up a little bit more. Still not too worried. Very early in this race. thing I also think I did very well in this race was not braking. There were only a couple times where I kind of got squeezed in on one of the chicane turns where I kind of had to brake, but for the most part, whenever I was going around the curves or anything like that, I was not braking. I think that really helped out to keep me close to the front of the race throughout this race. I guess they say if you can corner well and you're not braking, that's going to keep you closer to the front of the race most of the time. So your bike handling skills are really important in crit races. I'm just looking at my power on some of these, and there's several times in this race where I'm just no power and I'm just kind of coasting right behind somebody too. And that was nice because that means I'm conserving energy and I'm still going as fast as the rest of the people here. And I would say, so from the last race to this race, so the last race I had my old standard wheels and tires. So the standard wheels that come with the Tarmac SL7 are the alloy wheels. They're not necessarily super heavy or anything like that, but they're heavier than what a carbon pair would be normally. I've recently upgraded, so I got the Elite Drive 50D. So 50D just means disc. So 50 millimeter depth and disc brakes, and they really have helped out a ton. Just not having to put down so many watts and just being able to coast with most people and keeping speed. So that's one of the big differences from the last race to this race is I'm not having to put down as much watts to keep up in these races. And these laps go by pretty quickly. They were only just over a minute or so. The laps are very short. They were only about 0.6 or 0.55 or something like that as far as the length of the lap. So half a mile or a little bit more than half a mile. And as you can see, I'm just sitting in here, 0 watts, putting down very little watts, kind of just coasting behind people right now, conserving my energy for the end. And we're about halfway through at this point. So I'm going to go through on lap 7 here, 6 and 7. So there was a couple people from the last race in this race. And so obviously I knew kind of who was doing well and who I could follow. So there's a couple people that I followed in this race because I knew that they were pretty strong riders. Now here we go. So these two guys took off at the front, and then I really wasn't trying to close the gap or anything like that. I was really just kind of riding at this point, and I ended up putting down a few watts and then getting to the front here. I was not trying to pass anybody or anything. That was just me not braking and just riding. And then here's another attack. If I sound a little snotty or a little stuffed up, it's because I'm just getting over COVID. So right after this race, apparently I tested positive for COVID. Really haven't had very many symptoms except for last night. I was a little stuffy, but that was about it. Here we go, giving up a few spots just to kind of sit in, conserving energy again. This was definitely a fun and fast race. Really super easy, not technical at all. The chicane turns were pretty easy. I would say that this first one was the sharpest, and it's really just finding a good line right here. If you find a good line, then you should be fine. But that's the only sharp turn or anything like that. See, I keep dropping down to 0 watts, just cruising in behind people. If you can do that and keep speed, then you're definitely should be ready towards the end of the race when you really need to put down some watts to either run away from people or just to keep up. There was only a few times, I think, in this race where I spiked above 1,000, and one obviously was at the end in the sprint, but the other couple, I think there was just a couple laps where I was coming around that chicane turn and just popped a few watts at that point. So this is one of those laps. What lap is this? This is 10 or so. So this is one of those laps where it felt like people were just kind of coasting and just conserving energy, so we weren't going as fast. And then you see we get an attack here. But you know, that attack gets swallowed up here in a few. So he's off the front, maybe a couple seconds ahead, but we're closing in pretty quickly here. There it goes. So somebody goes to bridge the gap here, and everybody else follows, and he brings us right up into it. And here we go, we're getting ready to lap some of the guys from the field. Sometimes it gets a little confusing because you're like, wait a minute. So we got 3 laps to go here. This is where things start to ramp up just a little bit. Still feeling good. not putting out a ton of watts here. Conserving my energy behind these guys here, just kind of staying out of the wind. Now, because I don't have a team, I'm riding solo, and I've only been doing a few races, I don't know when I should attack or if I should attack as a solo rider. I'm still kind of learning the tactics in a crit race as far as that goes, but I think it works better when you have a team, so you can attack and you know that your teammates are going to kind of hold people back for you, so that you can get away easier. And this, I think, if I had gone, somebody was definitely going to tail me. So sometimes I think it's better, especially as a solo rider, to kind of sit back in the peloton and just kind of bide your time, because usually the attacks that go out are going to get brought back. So here we go, 2 laps left, still sitting in, and this is one of those laps where I felt like people were taking their time. You can see the speeds. You can kind of tell on some of the laps the speeds. So we're going around at 23, 24 miles an hour to start around there. Obviously we pick up towards the end because we're getting closer to the finish line and people want to start ramping up for that last lap. But for the first part of this lap, it seemed like everybody was just kind of conserving energy, getting ready to take off for this last lap. Alright, so this is where things start to pick up, and I've got to get myself in position here. So this is the bell lap, and I take an outside line here to get around. So I got to get myself in a good position here to sit in, and I put myself, I think, in 7th position right here, and you can see the speeds. We're up in the 30s here going around this curve. Last lap we were at about 23 miles an hour, so you can see the difference there as far as the speeds. So definitely putting a lot more watts in this point. And I'm sitting good, so I can't really see the front at this point, and I think they were actually, they were going off, so I didn't see at this point how far ahead they were. And being a bit better at crit races, I would know that I need to attack at this point and not let them get away, because there's not much time left here. And here we go for the sprint. So I go around the chicane turn, a little bit wider than I wanted to go, but I start going real hard, and my chain drops, my foot comes out of the pedal. I hit 1,566 watts top end, and I put myself in position to get, I think I would have come in 6th place overall. But I did, for the second time, get 1st place in the Cat 5s. So 2 times in a row that I've done this race, I got 1st place. Felt really great, and actually I think I bettered in the 4 or 5, so I did get 6th overall in this race. So felt really great. Had a great race this time. Got ready, with a lot of zone 2 training. I think zone 2 is kind of the key to getting better at cycling. That's more of your endurance zone, and you can see throughout this race my endurance zone is between 183 to about 250 watts. So you can see a lot during this race where I'm kind of sitting, if I'm sitting behind a wheel or whatever. that's kind of the zone that you're in for most of the race. And so if you can push yourself in that zone, you're going to be able to get through a lot of these races. So zone 2, baby. But yeah, so first place again. And I gotta say that I wish there were some more of these races. They had to close this race down in July. Normally it goes through August, but they had to close it down because they're gonna start renovating the track here. So next time maybe it'll be a little bit smoother. The road is, I would say the road's not bad, but there are some places on that track that definitely need to be fixed. Just some cracks and some bumps and things like that. But yeah, first place, baby. And yeah, like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon so you know when the next videos are coming up. We'll be putting some more videos out this summer. And I will see you guys on the next one.